Hey, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Jesus Nava. I'm the Director of Client Training and Education for TradeStation Securities, and it's a pleasure to be here talking about TradeStation. We're going to talk about something that I find fascinating about TradeStation, which is strategy automation. It's something that we've talked about before, but there's so many different things that we need to learn about TradeStation that it's always good to bring up these topics again, just to refresh our memory, to see what the capabilities are of our technology and what is it that you can do with it. Okay, so today we're going to talk about strategy automation, and we've split up this topic in two parts. Part one, of course, is showing you how to set it up, some of the things that you need to be aware of when automating a strategy, like looking at Trade Manager, how to turn it on, what different levels of automation there are. And then part two, which is next week, next Wednesday, we're going to talk about all the different checkboxes and radio buttons that are available in the automation tab when you go to the properties of strategy automation. So those are two things that I wanted to make sure that I spend some time on, and that's the reason why we have a part one and a part two, so that we can dive deeper into the TradeStation technology and you guys have all the details. All right. Before we get started, here's the usual disclosures. Just keep in mind that every symbol and idea that I talk about is for educational purposes only. These are not recommendations of TradeStation, and also that active trading is not suitable for everyone and should only be done with risk capital. And past historical performance is no guarantee of future results. And we just need to be aware of the risks of trading online. To get additional details on these disclosures, just go to the link right there on this PowerPoint slide. Second paragraph, www.tradestation.com/important-information. All right, guys, so let me switch over to my TradeStation platform. And I'm also going to give you guys the ability to chat. So let me go ahead and do that with all of you here as well. So if you do want to say something or you want to ask any questions about the functionality, feel free to raise your hand. There's a raise hand little button right there on Zoom. And I know that you guys will have a question. I think I can do that. These are, kind of smaller groups and we can field the questions that way. Let me get rid of some of these notifications so that my Windows taskbar goes away. And let's get started. You can also submit questions to the chat. We have a chat feature here in Zoom. I do ask that you set those chat windows to everyone in case you're going to be sending a question. Everybody can see it and we can all follow along. Okay, let's talk about strategy automation, the technology itself. Here is not very important what strategy I'm going to be using, but more, the next steps to automate the execution. So let me go ahead and first set up my strategy and my chart so that I can talk about automation. So chart analysis. All right, this is a 5-minute chart of ESH22. Let's make it a 1-minute chart. There's a huge increase on this futures in the last 5 minutes. It actually increased 20 points. Very nice, very interesting. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. I'm not sure what happened. Is this related to maybe some economics report that came out or something that I'm not aware of? But it seems like it's a big jump in the S&P E-mini right at this moment. Oh, yeah, this is March. ESU22. There we go. This is September. That looks a little bit nicer. All right, thank you for that, Rich. Let's take a look at a strategy. As I said before, symbol and strategy are not important. I just found it odd that we had that big spike right there for that future. So let's go over here to studies, and I'm going to add a strategy. Let's add something simple. Let me do a moving average. I'll do a moving average exponential. I think we have those here. Moving average. Do we have an exponential moving average crossover? I don't think we do. That's interesting. Maybe I created one because we didn't have one. But okay, let's go here and do a moving average long entry and long exit. Okay, two strategies. Let me put those on. Okay, and I'm also going to put the line in here at studies, the moving average line that this strategy is based on. It gives us an enhanced visual. So this is the moving average, one line. There we go. All right, so what the strategy is doing, for those that are familiar with strategy trading, whenever the price activity crosses above the line, we get a long entry. And whenever the closing price of any of these candles is below the line, then it just generates a selling transaction. So it buys and sells. This is no short side of the strategy. We just want to make things simple. Let's suppose that we like the strategy. We want to trade it. This is a 1 minute chart going back 2 days. Let's go and take a look at the strategy performance report. It doesn't look that bad for a 1 day historical back test. Let's go here 2 days. So as you go back in history, I think it's gonna not be a good strategy. Let's go back 5 days. 5 days, we are at a profit factor of 1.27. Very, very small margin, considering that I haven't factored in any commissions and so forth. But again, the concept here is not, finding the right strategy. It's just, automating the strategy. Let's suppose that we've done the work of analyzing the strategy performance report. We've done the work of optimizing the strategy and making sure that we've done everything possible to have or to build that confidence on the strategy. And now it is time to automate it. Automation means that we are trusting, or we have a certain level of confidence on the rules that we've programmed into the strategy, and we want to let it generate orders automatically, which is risky, of course, and it's also scary at the same time, because you're letting a computer program, enter trades and use your money to buy and sell shorts. Who's not scared of that, right? But let's go ahead and, so I'm going to skip the part of the confidence that you have on the strategy, because we do several classes here in the master class that discuss all the different tools that are available for us to build that confidence on the strategy. So I'm going to go up to the level where we've reached the confidence level, we're ready to automate it, and we want the strategy to trigger orders by itself. One of the reasons why you would want to have a strategy trading by itself could be because you want to have the flexibility of looking at other things. Here, I'm turning on the strategy on the S&P E-mini, and if you follow the rules or your trading rules to the T, then why not put that into a program that gets you into and out of trades automatically? If you do every single trade consistently the same way, and you look at the same signals, maybe that is something that can be programmed and automated. And I was talking about the flexibility because it does allow you to look at other things, maybe analyze other markets that you haven't, traded. This is a financial index futures, but maybe you want to venture into trading other commodities, maybe some grains or some agriculture commodities, and you want to do some testing and some analysis, and you don't want to be, glued to the S&P E-mini looking at the strategy and how it's doing. So that could be a reason why you would want to automate it, just to have that flexibility of going on to something else. We always emphasize that automation is not intended for you to turn it on and then go play golf, right? We want to be able to be there while the strategy is being automated and while the strategy is placing trades, so that you can watch it. Anything can happen to an automated strategy. You could lose internet connection. You could lose power to the computer. Anything that disconnects the TradeStation platform means that your strategy could be turned off. And it would be surprising if you are on and about, doing other things unrelated to trading, and then you come back and the strategy is just turned off. And the worst part is being in a position that the strategy got you into and didn't get you out because you were offline, because your strategy was turned off. And maybe the market went in the opposite direction, and now you're stuck with a position that's losing money. So that's the worst part that could happen, not the fact that your strategy is turned off or that you miss out on trades. The scary part is being put into a position where you have something open and is just going against you. All right, so let's go ahead and how do we automate this simple strategy? We see what's happening here. We're about to get out of this trade. One of the first things that we do when we build that confidence in a strategy is looking at how the strategy behaves in real time. Notice that we are in a long trade because the market, closed above the moving average. But now we are about to close below that moving average, and it's going to generate that exit. Now, of course, this is all historical. So the strategy, when you put it on the chart, is not automated at all, but you can see how it's being calculated tick by tick, even though it's not turned on. This is a strategy that is doing all the calculations tick by tick. And as soon as we get that candle closing below that blue line, we're going to get an exit. Now we can sit here and wait for that to happen. I'm gonna turn this chart into a smaller time frame than 1 minute so that it trades a little bit faster. But we should be very close to generating that exit. And you can see, and I wanted to see it live so you can see that these strategies are calculated in real time, even though we haven't even turned on automation. Okay. All right. So while that is working in the background, we'll just leave it here working in the background because we're waiting for a cross to the bottom side of that line, but the S&P can ride it to the top and continue to increase and not close to the bottom. So let's go ahead and continue and see how we can automate it and talk about the 2 levels of automation. And before we even talk about automation, I wanted to give you a little bit more information about how to monitor this. Let's go ahead and open up the Trade Manager. I always do that. Whenever you're doing automation and testing automation, please have a Trade Manager window handy. So Trade Manager, do not confuse it with the Trade Manager analysis. I'm going to bring this Trade Manager, resize it right here at the bottom so that I can see the last 3 rows of information, and then bring my chart edge a little bit higher so I can see it right there at the bottom. All right, so that's my Trade Manager right there at the bottom. When you automate a strategy, we're going to be looking at 2 tabs in the Trade Manager that we don't really look at a lot. These are the strategy orders tab and strategy positions. Okay, you can see that both tabs at the current moment are empty because we haven't created the link. When you automate a strategy, the first thing is that you're going to link the strategy to the Trade Manager. Why? Because you want to see what the strategy is doing, and the Trade Manager is the window or the application that's going to tell you the status of the strategy. As of now, the strategy is only inside of the chart analysis, and it's just doing its thing in there. It's doing the real-time calculations for you. But I'm going to go here into Format Strategies. You can go here to Studies and click on Edit Strategies. Most of the time, I use the double click, and I double click on one of the strategy signals. I want to double click on this the blue arrow, I'm sorry. And it takes me to the same dialog, the Customized Studies and Strategies. So use the one that is most comfortable for you, either double clicking on the arrow or going to Edit or Studies and Edit Studies. So from here, if you look at the list of strategies, at the bottom part of this dialog, you see automation. This is where you go to automate a strategy. Again, we've already looked at the strategy. We think that it's going to make us money, and we are just concerned about how to automate it. The first checkbox, and don't be scared to turn this on, maybe a little bit if you're doing it on a live account, but if you're on the simulator, which I am, and that's one of the beauties of TradeStation, that you can turn on these strategies on the simulator and not have to risk your capital. It just lets you see how the functionality works and if it's something that you would want to do. But the first checkbox, notice that it has nothing to do, and I'm about to close here. I'm just watching the chart here in the background because we should get an exit at the close of this bar. We have maybe a few seconds more on that. That first checkbox that I just checked is just creating that link between the strategy and the Trade Manager. It's not trading my simulated account, that is grayed out, and you see the checkbox is not checked. So the first link is important because that's the way that you see how the strategy is generating these trades. I'm going to leave that on and click OK. First, I'm going to see if that bar closes. It doesn't seem like it's going to close below the line. It did went below it for a moment, but I think it's going to close above it. It's closing in 5 seconds. Goes to the next bar. You can see we're still above that line. It is exactly what we said that it was going to happen. You know, we've been sitting here for a few minutes, and those candles are sitting right on top of that moving average. Sometimes when you want something to happen, it never happens, right? So here we're going to go first of all to strategy orders. Strategy orders will give you a visibility on what the strategy is doing. At this time, the strategy doesn't have any active orders. Why? It all depends on the type of strategy that you're monitoring. This particular strategy waits for the crossover for it to generate the trade. And that's why we have no information here in strategy orders, because we just turned it on. As soon as we get a crossover here to the bottom or to the downside of that blue line, we're going to get some information here because the strategy would have generated an order that is linked with the trade manager and we would see it. So yes, strategy orders doesn't show any of the historical trades. It shows you any trades from the moment that you put a checkbox going forward and any orders that are generated then. If you had a strategy in this case that had, let's say, profit targets or stop losses based on that, long position that you have, you would probably see those orders here in the strategy orders tab, but we don't have that type of exits. Our exit here relies on the crossover, and it's not until the crossover happens that the order is sent to the market. Additionally, if I go to the strategy positions, this tells me what the strategy thinks the position should be. I mean, we see what the position is. In fact, we've talked about it. We have one contract long. So when we look at the strategy position, it says ESU 22 on a 1-minute chart, you're long one contract. That's what the strategy says. So you can already see the link between the strategy and the trade manager. It supplies the trade manager with information about what the strategy is doing. Open position and position match don't come into play until you actually automate the execution. That's when it looks into your account to see if you have any open positions or any, or if the position that you have in your simulator or your live account matches what the strategy is doing. At this point, we haven't made that link. We're just sending the strategy information into the trade manager, and that's what we're looking at. The strategy price right here that you see, the 4,146.50, is my entry price. If I click on the chart history and I bring up the data tips window and I put my vertical axis right on the candle where you see that blue arrow, you can see the strategy information right there, and it says buy one at 41.46.50, and that's exactly our entry price or strategy price. It gives you the last price, so we're about some 10 or 11 points above our entry, giving us a strategy P&L of $525. So that long trade that was placed at 12:32 Eastern time is making us about $537 on the strategy side. Remember, we haven't turned this on for execution on the simulator or in your live account. Okay, so let's go to the next step. You see, it kind of bounced from that moving average, and the moving average is just working as a support level for that price activity. Let's go to the next step. I'm going to go over here and again, double click on one of the arrows. I'm going to check the next checkbox, which is automating the execution of the strategy. You can see that you get a disclosure. It's important that you read the disclosure because it does give you a good understanding of what the strategy is going to do. It's pretty much telling you that you should watch the strategy. Don't walk away. There's risk about turning the strategy on. And you do have to agree in order for the checkbox to stay on. If you click on I do not agree, then that checkbox is unchecked. You cannot automate if you don't agree. I'm going to agree. And you can see that my account here it lights up. It's not grayed out anymore because now I can click here and choose a different account if I want to. I have 3 different simulators in this TradeStation platform. You may have, a corporate account, a joint account, an individual account, all connected to your TradeStation platform, and you can choose which account is it that you want to trade by just clicking on that button. And next is account with confirmations on. I'm going to leave it on so that every trade needs my confirmation. It's important that you think about that because automation with confirmation on means you have to be there in front of the computer for the trade to go through. The strategy will not trade anything unless you confirm it. I'm going to leave it on. You can see what happens when the trade is triggered. I'm going to click OK to this. But before the trade is triggered, which, we're still waiting for that cross on the bottom side, take a look at the trade manager and new information shows up. Now that we've linked the strategy to our simulated account, now it tells us that our position match is false. What does that mean? It means that whatever the strategy is doing does not match your simulator. Inside of my strategy, I'm long one contract. Well, I don't have that contract in my simulator, and it's just telling me the position match is false. Meaning that whenever the strategy comes here and closes below that blue line, and it generates that exit, it's going to exit the strategy, long trade, but it's not going to do anything on my simulator. It's not going to trade anything because the position match is false. However, once we get that crossover over here, once the market crosses to the bottom side and it generates an exit on that long position that you have in your strategy, then we should see a position match true, because then you would be flat on both places. So a lot of times when you automate a strategy, if you let the strategy do at least a cycle of trades, you would, eventually be synchronized with the strategy. And that's sometimes how some strategy traders do it. They let the strategy do its thing. The strategy thinks that I'm long, but I'm not really. So I'm just going to wait until the strategy closes that strategy trade or strategy position. And then once it trades again, I'll be in a real trade. You can do that. You can just let it, run its course and then catch up and then synchronize itself when it does a cycle of trades. All right. So we're not getting that exit. I'm still waiting here for that exit. We're still, bouncing back and forth on that moving average. And let's just talk about some of the things before we make another change, because I want to see that order, show up on the screen. Confirmations. Yes, the strategy will always wait for you to confirm the trade. The strategy generates a signal on one bar. And that's one thing to consider also. We are looking at a 1 minute chart. The strategy generates the trades and they're only good for that bar. So if you're not in front of the computer, when the strategy generates a trade and you walk away, if a minute passes, that strategy order may not be relevant anymore. The strategy may have walked away and done something different. And what the strategy does, it usually removes that confirmation window because it doesn't apply anymore. So that happens a lot of times. So you have to be always aware of that. The strategy will send you a confirmation window, but it could technically remove that confirmation window or replace it with another one if it goes on to something different. Right here on that current candle, it seems like it's gonna close. There we go. I think it's gonna close. Let's see what happens when it actually closes that candle. We have about 20 seconds remaining on that candle. I should not get a prompt because it should only close my strategy position. Let's see. All right, so take a look what happened. It closed below the line and it generated a closing transaction for that strategy trade. I did not get a confirmation because that was not my trade. That was a strategy trade. But take a look at what happened here on my trade manager. My strategy is flat. my live or my simulated account is flat, which means that my position match is true, which is pretty cool. Now, when this market crosses or closes above the moving average, I should get in again. So here we have about 20 seconds remaining. So if we have a close on this other bar, we should get in right away. Let's see what happens. Now, when this trade is generated, because we're going to close above the moving average, and that's a trade, we should get that confirmation window, because now it's relevant. Now it makes sense, because now it's going to put in a trade. There we go. Now you see the bar closed, and I can see this confirmation window. Remember that the order is only valid for one bar. See, right now we're closing below that moving average one more time, so it's going to generate another selling transaction. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just let it sit there for a while. Notice that this is a buy order, buy ESU 22. But the current bar, if you can look at it, is going to close on the bottom side of that moving average, generating an exit for my long trade. Another thing, that you should notice is that the strategy puts in a blue arrow automatically. So the strategy doesn't really know that I haven't clicked on my confirmation. It just continues to calculate, puts the long trade there, and continues on. This is going to close. There we go. Notice how it closed. I didn't do anything. I just didn't click on that trade. But notice that it closed my strategy position. We're back on flat. But notice how it removed that confirmation window. So once a strategy thinks that there's no trade or a trade should not be placed, then it just removes that confirmation window. So what I'm saying is that you could miss it at any given moment. If you get this confirmation window, make sure that it also has a sound if you are somewhere within the vicinity of the computer, so that you are alerted that something is happening on your computer. All right, so we are coming down. So as long as we are below that moving average, we won't get a long trade anymore. So that could be a while. So everybody understands that. If you have any questions, please let me know here and I'll clarify, because it's important that we understand some of the mechanisms of strategy automation so that there are no surprises. Okay. The reason why the strategy puts in a long trade and then it closes it out. This is a trade that I didn't put into my account. Remember that I ignored the confirmation window for a while, but the strategy doesn't remove the trade. Now the strategy is doing its own thing. It's separate from what you do in your account. So the strategy has an additional trade that you didn't take, which is okay. I mean, you're not forced to trade whatever the strategy tells you to trade. You can ignore trades if you want to, but just be aware that by default, the strategy is doing its own thing. When we go into the strategy and we go into properties for all, there's an automation tab here that has a whole bunch of information. We're going to talk about all this next week. It gives you that additional details, and we'll review this information. But the reason why the strategy is doing its own thing without looking at what your simulated account or your live account is doing is because of that selection at the very top that says strategy will fill non-historical orders based on price activity. I don't like the fact that it says non-historical orders, because it's not clear what a non-historical order is. I wish it would say real-time orders. So strategy will fill real-time orders based on price activity. So that's what the strategy does. As soon as it saw the price, it filled the trade. It had a crossover right after and filled the trade again without any consideration to what was happening in your live account. That's what the strategy does, and that's what the default setting is. Let me go ahead and change the time frame here to something quicker so that we can get a faster response. I'm going to turn this into a 10-second chart. Would you like to disable strategy automation? I'm going to say no. 10 seconds are going to be very fast. Every candle is going to be built based on 10-second time frame. Just waiting for data. Let's just wait until it loads. So the strategy is going to be very active, but I just want to show you the next step in automation and how quickly it can, okay, so now, see the strategy is automated. It generated a long trade as soon as we had a recalculation, and it's waiting for us to confirm the trade. Now we are still on that buy order. Notice that it remains. So even though we're not on the entry bar, the confirmation is still there because it's just waiting for you to take the trade. This confirmation just gets removed whenever the strategy does something else. If I get a closing below that blue line, then this will just go away because the strategy is onto something else. But as long as the strategy is on a long trade, it's going to expect you to put in that long trade. Notice that my position match is false because I haven't taken that trade. So I'm going to take it. It fills me. And then I get a selling transaction. Notice how the strategy goes into a selling transaction because it went below the blue line and it's asking me to sell. And I can sell it. So in order for me to keep in sync with the strategy, I have to manually agree to every single one of those trades. Now that's, of course, not fully automated, but I know a lot of traders that feel a little bit more comfortable if they have that level of control over what the strategy is doing. So that if the strategy generates a order like this, buy it now, they have an opportunity to go to the chart and make sure that, okay, yes, I want to put in that trade. Here we go. See how it went away before I even clicked on the button? It's just because this is a 10-second chart. I don't think anybody here uses a 10-second chart to trade a strategy. Maybe so, but I made it a 10-second chart so that I can get these signals, back to back. Now I'm getting a buy signal. I buy it. So now I'm in sync. You can see that the strategy and my simulator are both long. And now it's just waiting for the closing price to move below that blue line. All right? Any questions so far? I'm going to wait until I get a crossover on the blue side so we can get that confirmation window. Okay, it's moving up. There we go. We're going to get that close. 10 seconds. Okay, it went higher. Now this one should close below. And I want you guys to see that the strategy will exit its long position, the one that's here, even before I click on the confirmation. So again, that separation between what the strategy thinks is happening and what is happening in reality in my simulator or my live account. Okay, so let's wait for that cross. There we go. We're going to close. Okay, it didn't quite close below the blue line. This one should do it. 10 seconds. Come on. Now it's going to bounce off. There we go. You see how the strategy, you see the white arrows, the strategy sold it automatically because it's based on price activity. It sees the price and it sells it. Doesn't matter what you do in your account. Right now, it's asking me to sell. I'm going to sell it. And then it's going to ask me to buy it because it had back-to-back orders right here. So notice that I got two confirmations, one's to get out and the other one to get in because the strategy was generating those orders back to back. Now you can take the strategy one step further. I can come over here. Let me double click on one of the arrows and then turn confirmations off. If you do this, you get another disclosure that tells that you're pretty much on your own. I'm just kidding. No help here. Now, this is not to be taken, jokingly, but serious stuff. But if you agree to automating the strategy without confirmations, this is fully automated. Let me when you made a change, I do not want to close the position because I have a position match true. So a lot of times when you make changes to the strategy, sometimes it's going to ask you to close positions or cancel orders. Just be aware of what is active and what open positions you have so that you can make the right decision whether you want to close or cancel. See, right now, I'm flat. Let me open up the position graph bar because that'll tell you, it'll show your open position here as the strategy is trading. All right, get a question here. Is this masterclass live today, August 3rd? Yes, it is, Jan. But the strategy is trading on September 2022. Where do you see September? This is the chart. You can see the date here is August 3rd. I'm not sure. Oh, you're the September contract. That is the contract. Exactly. So this is the futures contract. So it expires in September 2022. So next month. That's it, just the expiration date of the futures contract. But the trades are happening right here on today's date, which is August. So we're going to notice how the strategy is fully automated. We didn't talk about the strategy automation indications right here at the very top. SA gives you a clear indication of how the strategy or what the strategy status is. Green box with red letters means that it's automated. So the green means that it's automated. And the red letters means that the confirmations are turned off. There we go. Order filled. You see the real trade up here. This is the one that is on my simulated or my simulator. It matches what my strategy is doing. So right now, since the strategy is not waiting for my confirmation, they are kind of in sync. And I say kind of because it all depends on the type of order that's being generated. Here, it's pretty easy because they are both market orders, and market orders get filled kind of immediately. So you kind of are keeping them in sync because of that fact. When you start introducing limit orders or stop orders, that's a little bit trickier because now you are specifying prices. And what the strategy thinks is happening is something totally different than what really happens in a simulator or live account. An order may sit there, not get filled at all, even when you see the prices being hit, but the strategy doesn't know that. So a lot of times, if you want to keep things in sync, market orders are going to do that for you. Of course, market orders are open to slippage and prices that are probably not what you were expecting, but that's the nature of the market. But here, every time that the strategy generates a trade, since it's a market order, we'll get an immediate execution. All right. Those are pretty cool subjects. Again, we were talking about the SA indication right here on the top left. The colors are adjustable if you want to. If you go to settings and window, settings window, color. There we go. When it's disabled, you have black letters over gray. When you do the first link, it changes the gray to a lighter gray. Execution with confirmation, yellow letters over green box. And execution without confirmation, red letters over green box. So now it just crossed. As soon as it closes, we should see a selling transaction. There we go. We see our position go away automatically. No confirmation. The strategy is doing its thing. So far, I've made $15. You can see my closed P&L because you can see how that strategy is trading and perform because now it's using my simulated money. So now it keeps track of those numbers. I think it's pretty cool. Any other questions about this? As I said at the beginning, this is part one of automation. It's important that we know how to automate strategies, but I'm going to spend more time next Wednesday on the automation properties. So when you edit the strategy, go to properties for all, and we go to the automation tab, we need to understand what all this text means and how the strategy behaves if we turn on any of these features, okay? But that's, again, another topic to discuss. So here we have We're flat both on the strategy on the simulator. A couple things that I wanted to mention: you can automate multiple strategies on multiple symbols simultaneously. So this is just one chart. I can open up another workspace, select another instrument that I want to trade, turn on the strategy, and the strategy will keep track of all those positions. Let me show you. Let me open up another workspace. Let's open up a chart. In fact, instead of opening up a chart, I'm just going to right click, copy window, and then come over here, right click, and then paste window. Okay, we get an events log because strategy automation is disabled when you paste the window. And I'm going to right click and paste window again. And then right click and paste window 1/3 time. So I'm going to go here and window, arrange all. So we have all the windows side by side. And here on the left-hand side, I'm going to do SPY. Here in the middle, I'm going to do the Qs, QQQ. And here on the far right, I'm going to do Apple. All right, everybody sees that strategy automation is disabled. On this one, I'm going to right click and customize strategies, automate execution with confirmations off. Okay, and I'm going to automate the Qs, right click, customize strategies. I'm going to do the same strategy. Confirmations off. And Apple, right click, customize strategy, automate execution with confirmations off. So now when I come over here to the trade manager, let me open this up. You can see how in the strategy positions, I have 4 different symbols because I opened up 3 new charts. And notice that you can see the activity happening on right here on the Qs. I'm long one and I have an open position on the Qs. So there you go. Now I am having my orders getting filled here, except for Apple. We are in a long trade on, there we go. Now we are all long. Maybe it's just a coincidence that they were all, crossing above the moving average. A lot of these symbols are going to be very correlated. So some of the trades are going to be kind of similar, but notice that you can track your strategy P&L and everything related to the strategy. We have 4 different positions that are showing us an open P&L. Is that open P&L for futures? Open positions 3. No, this is a margin account. You can only see one account here, but if I go to my strategy, if I go to my positions tab, now you can see an overall open P&L. Yeah, because the open P&L that you see right here at the bottom is only for one account. And since I'm trading futures and I'm trading equities, the only way that I can see an overall total of P&L across accounts is right here in the Trade Manager Positions tab, and I see the total row, and I have an open P&L of $113. Okay, that's for the open positions. Okay, but you can see that I have 4 different positions, and my strategy is the one that's keeping track of all of them. Right here, I have the 3 charts that should be closing below that moving average very quickly. So let's see how it closes some of those trades and take a look at, what's happening here in the open position. It actually flattened me out on all the 4 charts. They all cross that moving average at the same time. Notice that I'm flat. And it's interesting that I'm able to automate these 4 different charts at the same time. So it's pretty cool. Can you do this for option? Asks Steve. For options, let me try this because I know that a long time ago, automation was restricted for options. Let me see if that was restricted. In fact, if you try to turn on automation for an option, it would just it would just disable it. Let me go here to edit symbol. I'm gonna go to lookup, options. Let's go for Apple. Let's look for Apple expiring August 19th. Apple is trading at 166. Let me buy this call with 165. So this is my call right here. So let's go ahead and put in the strategy. I'm going to go here to add strategy. I'm going to use the same one that I'm using on those stocks. Automate the execution with confirmations off. So it seems you can. Let me turn this into a 10-second chart. So this is a 10-second chart on that call. It's not going to trade as frequently as the stocks. So it could be a while before we get a trade here. But based on this, it seems like it's going to work. Let me go here and add studies. Moving average 1 line. There we go. Right here at the very end, you can see that we had a crossover on the bottom side and then closed our long trade. But if we have a close to the top side, we should get a buy order. So we have about a minute in between trades here. We can wait here and see if we get another trade. There we go. So it's going to wait 10 seconds. Oh, there we go. It actually traded our call. So it is something that you can do. I'm not sure once you go live, if you can automate the execution of options. That's something that you'd have to confirm, but it seems like the simulator allows you to automate that execution. Yeah. And you have to have a lot of volume on options as well, so you can get that, activity happening. It worked on the Apple call because it traded today, but it's true. The activity or the trades are just gonna be as frequent as the call is trading, So maybe the automation that you were thinking, we could probably talk about that a little bit more and ask the experts if you wanted to have a little bit more customization, okay? All right, guys, that's my class for today. Remember that next Wednesday, we're gonna do a continuation of this topic, which is strategy automation, and talk about all the other elements of strategy automation and all the check boxes and radio buttons that are important to keep track of, okay? Thank you for joining me today. I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon, and I'll see everyone tomorrow or our next class, okay? Thank you for your support of the masterclass. Goodbye, everyone.